is the idea of how to bring on a client in a strong manner that preserves the relationship and strengthens a relationship and actually helps when you're closing a claim later on. One thing I'd like to talk about during this is think about this not just in, I think I'm going to put my camera on for now. Don't just think about this in the context of your own business, of how can I use this for me, but think about all of these client onboarding procedures, not the minutia of it, like the exact thing to put in a welcome letter or what have you, but just the process of being brought on as a brand new client in other aspects of your personal or your professional life. I know us at ClaimWizard, I personally am really striving to make the onboarding process for new clients much smoother, much more education focused, much more results driven, things like that. So we're all learning as we go along this. But think about this. Some of the lateral ideas that I thought about for onboarding new clients, even though it's not your industry or my industry, buying a new home, purchasing a car, anything, any of purchasing large furnitures, not like IKEA pick and pack, which I wish was open right now, but something where you have to buy it, customize it, get your colors, pick your fabrics, and then order it. A lot of what I see in most of those industries, when done poorly, is you sign a contract, you give a lot of money, or in your client's case, a lot of trust in rebuilding a property, and then it's crickets. And that is scary. And I don't want your clients to be scared, especially now. I had this webinar planned in January before everything kind of went crazy with the pandemic, but I decided to move it up further, closer now to get it kind of done sooner because public adjusting companies are out there signing clients. Some are like gangbusters, just like 10xing, 20xing their amount of clients, mostly business interruption, mostly, commercial kind of things. But in any case, I'm hearing rumors that even residential properties are going back gangbusters. So if that's not the case, for you, we can definitely all work on this together to get that going. But now more than ever, people need customer service. They need to feel safe. They need to feel taken care of. They need to feel understood. And I know a lot of public adjusting companies, when I ask them what they do, they fight with the insurance companies and they haggle and they're tough as nails and all these other things, which is a feature of what they do. But in reality, what you have to do is service your client, service that policyholder, and that is customer service 150%. And without that, you have no clients. Without that, you have no ability to go and go toe to toe with an adjuster and a carrier and things like that. So that's why I truly believe the beginning of the claim process is so important for setting up the right tone with the relationship with the client, making sure that you get everything that you need to do your job as a professional, to make sure that the trust and the understanding and the workflow is there so that when it comes time to wrap up the claim, your client is over the moon and willing to give all their friends your information to go forward. But if you start out on the wrong foot, none of those other things will happen. Okay, so let's get rid of my picture. Let's see. This struck me as anything. Being Every business is in sales. Every business is in customer service. Not every business provides a service. Not every business manufactures, but every business has clients above all else. And this quote by Maya Angelou, it's always quoted different ways, whether she said it or not. The point is the sentiment behind it. At the end of the day, people won't remember what you said or what you did, but they'll remember how you made them feel. And in the beginning of a claim process, if you make them feel ignored, belittled, unintelligent when the process, because some people are like, they want to present themselves and try to show value as them as an adjuster that they know so much, which is true. But in the meantime, you can't belittle a client. So there's so much that goes behind it. And I will just say my standard disclaimer, anyone that's usually interested in education on this aren't the culprits in the industry. So don't all feel put out for that. But know that you are all in customer service. Every email, every phone call, every letter, everything is touch point with the client, and it makes a big difference, especially now. Okay. So there's always a lot that I want to cover, and hopefully I can put it in together in a succinct way. So for me, customer onboarding has three goals, three things that you should be aiming for. The first thing for me, absolutely without a doubt, is to get your clients involved in some capacity in the claim process within the first 48 hours of contract signing. And I'll say 48 hours, but in some states I might say 72. Why do I come up with those numbers? Because I want to know how long your clients have to cancel your contract. Ding, 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 ding. They can cancel a contract in 42 or 72, 48 or 72 hours, however math works, Lynette, and you don't reach out to them for 2 weeks, guess what? They signed a contract, a huge leap of faith, a huge financial commitment or loss, a huge quality of life. Their business could be, out of a building. Their home could be out of a building. What all of the circumstances that happens, they sign a contract and you take off and they don't hear anything from you. That is the worst thing in the world. Imagine signing a contract to purchase a house and not hearing from a real estate agent or anyone for 3 weeks. That would scare the daylights out of you, right? Same holds true with this. And sometimes the money is actually more than what house is worth. So it is a big deal, in my opinion, to start the touch points with your clients immediately, depending on what your sales process is. So we're going to cover a lot of that as well. I believe very firmly right in the beginning of your relationship that you should establish a communication preference. They need to know who to call. They need to know where to call, what email, all that kind of thing. And they need to know what you're going to do for them. So, public adjusting is a big black hole for people that aren't familiar with the process. I know in fact, I literally talked to someone today that says, if I tell my clients how I adjust claims, they will fire me and adjust the claim themselves. I promise you this will not happen. Because it's so time involved. There's so much, what you guys do, so much work behind the scenes. Your clients are not going to adjust the claim themselves. If they've come to you and signed the contract, they are not going to decide 48 hours later that, what? Bob told me what he does, and I think it sounds really easy. I'm going to cancel my contract and do it myself. And even if it does happen once they get into it, I'm pretty sure they're going to come back to you. What they're going to cancel the contract for is because you ghosted them. So that's that. We're going to go over communication and process workflow, what to share. Never promise timelines. Never, never, never to promise times. That's my one big overarching rule with that. And the third thing here, and I didn't mean to make it say gem, but it looks pretty cool, is to make sure that you make your service indispensable to your clients. I say this from time to time. In theory, you as a public adjuster or public adjusting company offer the same exact service, sometimes at the same fees if you have caps or it's just generally accepted that everyone in the industry charges X amount of percentage. The same exact service as every other public adjuster in your city, in your state. Hell, your client could adjust their own claim. Now, we know there are vast differences in the amount of outcome for damages paid. But when you look at it at the very nitty gritty, you as a public adjuster on a very bare minimum with your license offer exactly the same services as everybody else. So you better make sure that early on in this process, after the contract, definitely before, or they're not going to sign your contract, but definitely after that contract is signed in that beginning ramp up period, that you make sure that you demonstrate your value, your expertise, and that you are an indispensable part of the team that it's going to take for that policyholder to get their property built back at the price that it's actually going to take to get that property built. Okay. This is me. That's so exciting. This is me. This is me on quarantine. This is me not on quarantine. Some of you may be familiar with me. My name is Lynette Young. I am the sorceress of alchemy. Alchemy meaning everything I touch turns to gold, and that's what I strive for for you guys as well. I've been working with public adjusters unofficially for 23 years, officially for 7 or 8, with a lot of back office workflow efficiency kind of under my belt. I've also done a lot of work with digital marketing. I was the queen. I've wrote books on this on the topic, and Google's had me in the whole thing. So I have a very vast knowledge of the business space, but most importantly, it is small business that I am passionate about. Trust me when I tell you, and I'm sure you know this in your heart as well, small businesses will be at the heart of getting our economy back restarted. And I sure as heck hope that public adjusters are on the forefront of that. I want this industry to be so strong that you can walk down any street in any city and everyone knows what a public adjuster is. So that's my goal. Now, what are we going to talk about in this webinar? Two things, right? My overarching reason for making these webinars is they are designed specifically for public adjusters, small businesses, right? Because technically, I have not met a public adjuster in all of North America that qualifies for, anything being a large company. We're all small companies in some capacity, whether that's head count, revenue, whatever. There are legacy companies, there are very large companies, there's very small mom and pop companies, but in reality, we're all small companies, and that's what I want to specialize in. I also want to say that this is for ClaimWizard and non-ClaimWizard clients. You don't have to be a client of ClaimWizard, say that 3 times fast, Lynette, to benefit from what we want to share here, the expertise that we've gathered that we want to share. A rising ship, no, wait. I said this last time, a rising tide raises all ships. There we go. I keep saying I'm going to put that on my office, and one of these days I'm actually going to. But I strongly believe that if we do better as an industry, we all do better as an industry. A last note on that, if you have any ClaimWizard specific questions or requests or help or anything to do with the actual platform, I'd love to connect with you outside of the webinar. This is being recorded and other people will listen and watch it later on. So I'm trying to make it a little generic, I guess, in that sense, if that makes any sense. But you can, if you have any questions specifically about ClaimWizard, hit us up. Help.claimwizard.com or academy.claimwizard.com is our online help training for that. Okay. My opinion on this is within 48 hours, if your contracts can be canceled in 72 or 5 business days or whatever it is, the shortest I've ever seen is 48 hours. So I think it should be 48 hours. The sooner, the better, in my opinion. You should do all 3 of these things. Create and send a new client welcome letter. In the last webinar, we talked about templates and documentation that you can either generate on your own or automatically through ClaimWizard. And I gave a lot of samples. When I follow up from this webinar, I have your email addresses, and I'm going to send you an email that's going to have those letters attached again, just in case you want them again, or didn't have them, or were new here. But I'm also going to send these slides. So it usually happens like an hour or 2 after. I'll get that out to you. But that client welcome letter we covered, but we didn't dive in deep. And I already had this webinar scheduled, but I get a ton of email saying, welcome letter, tell me how to do it. This is what we're doing today, among other things. I also think you should immediately schedule a follow-up call within 48 hours with your client. I used to actually feel like it was email, but I've walked back from that. I really genuinely feel it should be a call, even if you can't get through to them. Later on in the process, sometimes it's hard to get your client on the phone. Sometimes it's hard to get them off the phone. But in the beginning, they're definitely more receptive to talking to you on the phone. But I think that you should schedule up after they are signed and everything, and after they get their welcome letter, I think you should give them 2 days, and then you should give them a call, and we'll go over what that call should contain. And number 3 just kind of kicks off within the first 2 days and then kind of is ongoing throughout the claim, celebrating milestones along the way. And this was a really weird concept to actually wrap my own brain around. Like, oh, we completed the estimate. Yay. Like, you celebrate it with your client. I know it sounds kind of dumb, but every milestone, because in my head, I'm a project manager. I see Gantt charts. Every milestone is just that much closer to getting a property reconstructed, that much closer to getting your claim fee. I mean, it just celebrate it, make your clients excited about the process, and it's also a way to keep in touch with them along the way. Okay. So some of the things that I kind of want to put out on the table ahead of time are just some general overarching ideas about how you develop that relationship with your client and what you take out of it. Now, I understand, and I think I saw some of the people in here. Oh, I see questions too. Maybe not. Okay, I'm monitoring this all myself. I'm trying to do the chat and questions and all that. So my apologies for that. But there are different types of setups of business setups of public adjusting companies, and I've worked with them all. Could be a solo person that is completely doing soup to nuts, adjusting to writing documents, check collection, scrubbing toilets, everything. Then you've got very large companies that have offices across the state or across the country or North America in some instances that have dedicated, not just dedicated staff, not office staff and adjusters, but they have estimators, scopers, people that only do Matterport, people that only sit in front of, Xactimate or Exactaware and do that, people that only schedule appointments. They've got women in the office that their entire job is to do nothing but call people and schedule appointments and put it in calendars, and that's it. Whether it's with a client, whether it's with a carrier, whether it's, with an estimator, whether it's with an attorney, that's all they do. So you can imagine all the different variants of company structures in between. Salespeople included. Some companies have sales solicitors, some do not. I personally find that seems to be more prevalent in the Northeast. When you have a sales solicitor that basically gets the contract signed and throws it over the fence into the office, or you have an adjuster that is starting to work on a claim, signs a claim and starts to work on it, and then dumps work, and I mean literally dumps work on the desk of an admin in the office, there's not a lot of opportunity to chit chat about the type of client or their personality. Some people are very formal, your clients. They require you to schedule appointments with their secretaries. Other people are super chill and laid back and like, yeah, call me on Saturday. I don't care. Like, you're going to know what they're like. You're going to know what the structure of that relationship needs to be. You need to understand it, figure out what their pain point is. And their pain point in your industry is pretty unanimously they have a building or real estate property that has damage, needs to be rebuilt. But I think it's very important for amongst your team to kind of communicate those changes or those client understandings amongst each other as well, because some clients need to be dealt with in specific ways. That sort of thing. Some you can be super casual with. I am a super casual person, in case anybody hasn't noticed. But on occasion, I will wind up working with someone that is very formal, very, every call that I have with them, they pre-send an agenda with timestamps because we're only allowed to talk about something for 5 minutes and then we have to move on. Like, you need to figure that out. But tailoring their onboarding experience is very critical for that. The baseline of this onboarding experience really does work for anyone, but some of your clients are going to be way more structured and some are going to be like willy-nilly, like, hey, yeah, I'll get you those pictures when I can get them. It's like, no, we need them in a week. Like, you have to give your clients deadlines, because the ones that are flaky all over the place won't adhere to it. But the ones that do want deadlines will absolutely be punctual with it. So that's kind of the things that you need to, figure out what your client, what their rep is all about. The next is to set clear expectations. And I have a business kind of like a mastermind group that I belong to, one of the mastermind groups that I belong to. And I routinely throw them out questions. They're my guinea pigs, right? And there's 300 total, but about 100 of us are active. And I'll ask them, when you sign a contract, what are your expectations? Like, what do you hate about it? What do you don't like about working with particular clients? What are your gotchas? And almost always, besides being ghosted, their biggest problem is not understanding what the outcome is supposed to be or not understanding what's expected from them. So if you are working with your client and you're expecting them to gather all of this documentation and paperwork that we'll go over in a bit, but you don't tell them that, and then 2 weeks after the contract sign, you come to them and you say, hey, I need basically a binder full of information. I need all these pictures and receipts and X, Y, and Z. And they're like, whoa, 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 I didn't know I was supposed to get that. And all of a sudden your deadline is coming up. I am a huge fan of what I call front loading a claim. Everything you need should be communicated in writing. So even if you do this welcome letterish type thing in email, I believe that you should follow up on a nice piece of paper, like, just, don't fold it, put it in a big 9 by 12 or something, like a really nice packet for your clients, reiterating the whole welcome letter and such. But they need to know what to expect. And they do need it in writing. So a lot of times I'll talk to public adjuster companies and I'll say, what do you send your clients after they sign their contract? And they go, well, we give them a copy of the signed contract because we're required to by law. And I'm like, cool. Do they know that you're going to be in their house, digging around through their underwear drawer for contents? No. Well, when you show up and do it, they're pretty upset. So you need to disclose this stuff, in my opinion, beforehand. Your sales process needs to match what your actual adjusters and staff are going to do. Dave asked, how do I feel about text communications? I actually like them because I'll say millennials. Millennials are almost 40 now. Most people actually do like text communications. We do have ways to archive those texts in ClaimWizard because every single piece of communication, in my opinion, should be either archived or documented then archived. Like, you're not going to really record a phone call depending on your state, I suppose, but you're going to follow up with an email reiterating and say, thanks for our phone call. We discussed X, Y, and Z. The same could be with text. So yeah, text is great. I also am a fan of boundaries, which we'll cover in a little bit. Like, I'm not going to say that we got phone calls and emails on Easter, but we did. you know, we may have answered them, but most people may not want to be, bothered on Easter or something. So you are going to set the parameters for your clients going forward. And that's actually part of expectations. But what we're going to talk about in a little bit, Dave, is like if you want them to call an admin in your office or you want them to email her first, like if emailing the admin is the first line of communication, you need to say it as such. Because if you say, here's 17 ways you can contact 4 different people in our company, they're going to, it's like a duck shoot every time. Well, this time I'm going to call someone. Next time I'm going to text a different person. Next time I'm going to email the third. Everything becomes disjointed and the conversation doesn't stay consistent and it's very difficult to track. Oops, sorry for that. Hopefully it didn't go out. Microsoft decided it wanted to update my computer in the middle of all this. So that's why I say with your expectations, you have to have a clear line of communication with them. And I'm going to give you visual examples of that too. But for me, what I see is sales promises people the moon. Oh yeah, we can get your money. Like it usually takes us like a month and you'll get like all the money that our adjuster says. Does that no? And then you get the adjuster in there and adjuster's like, yeah, well, you didn't have enough coverage or, whatever the situation may be, and it's going to take longer. And then they're mad. And who are they mad at? All of you, because the communication doesn't match. One of the webinars I actually want to do, it's not currently on the schedule, but these are my jam, is talking about the sales process and how to put together a slide deck that will help you present and close a client in one meeting. Because I actually have extensive training on that within the public adjusting realm. So I thought that would be cool. If you're interested about that, put a heck yeah in the chat because I want to see if there's enough interest in it before I start writing it. But expectations are really important. Expectations without time frames. So I don't ever, want you to be able to tell a client, well, we can do this in a month or we can get you money and whatever. But if you're going to set appointments for estimates or for inventory, in a week, then yeah, they need to know. I like the heck yes. Thanks, guys. So expectations are key because there's nothing worse than saying, well, they told me, or I thought my public adjuster told me X, Y, and Z. And then what comes around in reality is different. That's why you need everything in writing and you need everything explicit. So you could always go, well, remember the welcome letter. Remember we said it was going to, you were going to have to do this next and we can't move forward until you get us that document. Like, oh, yeah, that kind of thing. Next is I want you guys to prove your value quickly. So the state of your industry, and I usually lump myself in with that. Maybe my own industry is the same way. I'm not quite sure. When things get rough, let me put it this way. When cats fall from the sky, right? And anybody outside of this industry would go like thinking a feline, like your cats fall. No. I forget sometimes when I talk to people outside the industry, when a catastrophic event, right, falls from the sky and there is more claims than you know what to do with, business is great. But when things get tough, and I call it blue sky marketing, right? So I have a whole webinar coming up on that, about when it's business as normal and you're only working with your daily claims, or in situations like this when things get really crazy and tight because the whole stinking world is under quarantine. You need to prove value very quickly and very aggressively, in my opinion, or not just risk the idea of losing that client, but having them poached by another person that may appear a little bit more hungry than you. So just this is why I want you to come out of the gate very strong with your clients. It's poaching as well as just canceling the claim. Sometimes with cats, I see that they get better deals from other people and they're like, well, they can do 3% less of a fee or whatever. Like you just have to be careful. So, in any of those circumstances, proving your value and your worth for your 20% or whatever it is, definitely need to do it. I'm a big fan of, especially if you use ClaimWizard, you can pull reports. I never remember the name of it, but basically you can pull it in your top 25 deltas. So if an original claim came in with an estimate or an offer from the carrier for say $12,000, and you wind up getting your client like 60,000 or 180,000, like some crazy number, we can pull those reports and then you can sort them by peril or property type or whatever, uh, residential versus commercial. So then you can say to your commercial clients, this is my last 25 claims for a commercial client for hail. And look at all this extra money we got, people. Like money talks. Like you can talk all you want, but you're showing them, obviously not with client information in it. But yeah, roof hail damage, they said $12,000. They were going to replace, 20 square feet of it, and we got the whole roof replaced. And this is how. So that goes a long way. Prove your value very quickly. If you can pre-vet and pre-ask clients of yours, like some of your star clients, your diamond clients, if they would be willing to not only give you testimonials to put up that you can pre-package together to prove your value as part of a welcome package as well, and customize those people so they make sense. I wouldn't send like a corporate industrial, like a restaurant claim to like a homeowner. Like that wouldn't make any sense to them, that kind of thing. So customize that, have that stuff ready to go. But also it goes a long way towards making them comfortable with the fact that you understand their specific peril. If somebody's only ever dealt with what I call churn and burn residential claims, low value but high volume claims, if you put a 7-digit fee in front of them for a multi-building, property, or they're not going to feel that comfortable with it. So show them that you understand how to work their particular claim. Keep communicating. Yes, 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 yes. Do not ghost. Thank goodness I never had a date in the modern age because I don't think I could deal with any of that. No ghosting, no just dropping off communication, return phone calls, be proactive. In my opinion, a client should never call you. You should always give them either via client portal, or they should always have the information, because you're giving them a steady drip of information and updates, and they know what the phase is, what the next step in the process is, and they understand that maybe they won't get an update for a week or two because it just takes that long to do it. But communicate with them. I also think that you should ask them what their preferred communication style is. But even if it is telephone, I know we've got clients that are like elderly or just whatever, that they're not like, email people or texting people, that they want phone calls. But I think you should always follow up with email, or if email is not available in the case of a senior citizen, put it in writing and mail it to them. Because they need a copy. They're probably going to want to share it with a caretaker or somebody because they're not going to understand what's going on. So just always reiterate and document your stuff. You guys know this with carriers, but I think people will drop it off a lot with customers as well. And text messages are the same. Hey, they may want to text you. That's cool. But you need to be able to dump it into ClaimWizard so that you have it for later if you ever need to pull it up or someone else on your team needs to. Communication, and a really important fact on your text message phone, is completely useless to your admin when she's on the phone and has to answer a question. So I say that communication is imperative, obviously, but it should be kept in a central repository so that everyone on your team can benefit from it. Next, seek to impress. This is customer service. Every time you talk to a client, it's an opportunity to either strengthen or flush that relationship, quite honestly. The longer you keep them on a high with that relationship with you, the stronger they are as a good, not only a good client who doesn't squawk when the check exchange for their fee comes, but they're also the ones that are very willing to tell their friends and family about you. We talked about that pretty extensively in the last webinar, so go back and watch that if you need some info on that. Okay. Hey, look at that. It's our client welcome letter that you've probably all seen to death already. And this is what I share with people, and I'm going to share it with you again. This over on the left-hand side, this client welcome letter. Everything in yellow is done there just as a highlight so we can discuss it over the interwebs. They are the template fields for ClaimWizard. So client.full name in the double square brackets, we understand to take your client full name first and last and put it into the system. We could do first name, last name. I don't know. We've got like 700 fields or something crazy. The red, I kept red on purpose because a lot of people were taking my templates and copying and pasting them and using them directly to their own clients. So as you can see, copying and pasting this to your client in red would not be a good idea. You need to fill it out. People wanted ideas about what to put in there. And I hate putting words in people's mouth, especially this industry, because there are legal connotations to it, right? But the first thing that I want you to do here, and we're going to go over a lot of this as well too, is I want you to welcome to the, public adjusting company customer community or client community, whatever it is. Welcome them, sympathies for their loss, whatever the deal is. But I like very much the idea that they belong to a community now. And especially now, people are looking for that. They're looking for help. They're looking for hand holding, probably above and beyond what they already were with public adjusters. Let them know that it's a privilege for you to work with them. Let them know that you strive, that your entire team strives to help them. And that here's a packet of resources to provide a framework and a clear path for success. And in this letter, and it's not going to be a one-page letter. I've seen some that people I've worked with on a consulting basis that we've actually worked through the whole thing. It's a 5-page letter, which is totally cool because your customers are probably literally going to put it on a magnet on the side of their refrigerator because it's going to tell them everything they need to do and everyone they need to talk to at your company. That's what you want it to be. So we're going to talk about this, and I'm going to resend everybody this template if you need it. So, among other things in the client welcome letter, this very much reminds me of y'all's About Us page on your websites. We are industry leading public adjusters that serve, and they list every state across the country that they have a license in. And, we are here to help you fight the carrier and da da da. And it is so generic. I don't know who you are. I don't know how many people work for your company. I don't know what you specialize in. All I know is you work in 17 states. For all I know, you might not be in my state when I need help. That's what that feels like. So this also looks like your about page on your website. But what I want, and I've done this, I was my own guinea pig in my own case study for this. I have done exactly what we're talking about here for HVAC companies. And I think I talked about it in the last webinar. It all kinds of blurs together, but we would have HVAC companies that people would book appointments, and then the service tech would show up and the people wouldn't let them in the house because they didn't know who they were. They were dressed in a sloppy t-shirt. They showed up early, late, who knows. They didn't know the name of the person that was supposed to be coming. So, that was unknown. So what we did was we did these welcome letters. And instead of saying, we will send a technician to your house between 3 and 7 tonight, like that's pretty stupid. We will send a technician named, Jorge to your house between 3 and 4:30. If he's going to be late, he will call you. Here's his email. Here's his photo. And when he shows up, he's got, a shirt on with the logo of the company, or at least we went to Staples and made everybody like tags, like name badges. It was ridiculous, but it actually worked. So that's what I want you to do in your welcome letter. I want you to do something like this, right? So, hey, here's your public adjusting support team, because now we're in a team together to get your property, reinstated to the full and proper, whatever you're entitled to by your policy. I want a picture of the company owner, and maybe not phone, because you don't want, as soon as they can't get somebody else on the phone, they're going to be ringing you up. Maybe not. So maybe just email. Here's your adjuster. Here's his name. Here's how you get in touch with them. Here's your customer support person in the office. If you need anything, please start with Rose and call her or email her, whatever her preferred way of doing it is. If you need help, call Rose. She'll be able to help you. She can look stuff up in ClaimWizard. I mean, you're not going to tell them that, but Rose is going to be able to help you. This way, Rose can handle the client. She can be this smiley, happy face, even though she's grinding her teeth behind the telephone. Your adjuster doesn't have to interrupt whatever he's doing out in the field. You all know, as adjusters, you're out walking a property, trying to get a contract, somebody to sign a contract, and you get a call. Let it go to voicemail. They call back. They call back. They call like they're annoyed, and you have to pick it up. That's not cool. Let someone in the office handle it if that's not your situation for that. Answering service, customized voicemail, whatever you got to do to appease those people and get back to them as soon as you can. But this is actually my preferred way of kind of dealing with it. But show them faces. Cameras aren't all that hard. We all have them on our phones. Everybody take an ace headshot, send it in, make sure you're smiling, and let your clients know their chain of command of who they need to contact. Much better. This works for your about page too on your website. I just really like to see people's faces. Next, I want you in that first 48 hours, and I have guinea pigged this, or I should say A/B tested this with some public adjusting clients of ours that work with us on a consultant basis. And I said, okay, take 10 of your clients, take 20 of your claims this month, whatever month we were working in. I said, 10 do what you normally do, and 10 do what I'm asking you to do, and see where the relationships go further on down the line. See what closes faster, what's an easier time for your adjusters where they're not getting harassed all the time or something like that. When we gave clients something to do, even if it's, air quote, busy work, they felt much more involved in the process, much more kind of that they had, that they were helping the process move along quicker. And they were much more willing to either work with the adjusters going forward, especially when something negative came back with an estimate. So if that beautiful, oil painting on the wall, they thought for sure was worth all this money, turned out to be somebody's 5th grade art project and it's not worth squat, that relationship's kind of already there and will go a little bit more smoothly. Some clients you're going to know aren't going to do this. Corporate clients, maybe not, but corporate clients, you're not working with the policyholder, you're working with a manager, so you're handed off to somebody, and you can work with them through these types of these bullet points that you need to work. I strongly believe that you should send ahead a blank inventory sheet, printed and or a Dropbox link or something. List all the rooms, list sample inventory, all that sort of stuff, so that they can start going through themselves. Honestly, even if you don't use it, I really hate to treat your clients like they're like in a disrespectful or juvenile way, but it does give them something to do. And in the case of the 10-10 split that I did with one of our clients, they had their clients write down stuff that they are sure that they would never realize was either something of value or something that was put away or in a box or shoved in their mattress that they it wouldn't not have been easily accessible for them to actually inventory. So it turned out to be a good thing. But just know, they may put down every little thing in the world, and that's not the way it goes. Start having them gather receipts for their contents, go through their credit card bills, whatever the process is. Make sure that they're keeping their remediation bills, things like that, board up, dry outs. People don't realize sometimes that they can actually get coverage for this. I want you to, and this could be part of the letter in there, some of the letters that you send to your clients so they could sign and return to you so that you can send it to the carrier on their behalf, is to get their policy and their certified declaration page. Start this early. Do not wait until the estimates are done to go get the deck page, because then you're working against numbers that you may never ever be able to get. So you need all of this. This is what I mean about the front loading. So definitely do this. Um, Ask them to start to compile before photos. So, oh my gosh, I just realized how much easier this is with social media and phones in our cameras. Y'all remember what it was like back in the 90s, when, like, even the 80s, when they had like 110 film, and you like, I know I have a roll of the wedding or the birthday party I took in my house last year, and they didn't develop the film, and it was just nightmares all the way down. Now, heck, they can say all your friends, hey, we had a barbecue 3 weeks ago. Can you all send me your pictures from the barbecue? Because now everybody's going to see the Traeger grill I had, or whatever it is. They can go to their friends and gather these photos. They can get them off their phone. Like, just go get your before photos, but give them something to do. And then also here, there's the list of attached documents, which is kind of listed like a W-9 that you may need to give them, mortgage pre-auth, whatever these papers are that they may have to sign and return to you, but also let them know why they're important. Because if they just think they're signing a paper to send it back, maybe you don't get around to it. Oh, I'm not sure if you can hear me anymore. Let everybody know if we can hear me. Okay, we're good. So if you can't hear me, try to mute and unmute me or something like that. Sorry about that. But also, if they understand why you need this document and what time frame. Without X, Y, and Z document, I can't represent you to the insurance carrier. So yeah, you got to get it back to me quick. Or if you're anything like my kids with their homework, well, they did the homework, they just never turned it in. Well, yeah, I know you signed it, but you got to give it back to me, kind of thing. But all of these documents can actually be uploaded to the client portal if you use ClaimWizard. So if that's the case, tell them to document all of this stuff and then just drag and drop it into their client portal, and then they're good to go, because now the communication is much quicker. And there's a lot of those extra steps in the middle of, dropping by your office or whenever an adjuster is in their area, running and picking it up. And that's a lot of garbage time you don't need. Just have them dump it into the client portal. You get notified immediately and you're good to go. Okay. When we talk about setting clear expectations for the claims process, I'm not talking about dates. It doesn't have to be in a spreadsheet format. I guess that's a spreadsheet. It's just kind of how I think. So you may want to think about, if you're familiar with using ClaimWizard, we have a concept called claim phases. And that when you look at the entire claim from beginning to end, from contract signing to like last check, close out, your fees are all paid, that kind of thing, there are pretty predictable little mini life cycles within that claim. You're obviously not going to be able to collect your fee before you've even done an estimate. Like, it has to run in a pretty predictable manner. Some states, some companies, things get run in different orders, but for the most part, you're running claims in generally the same order every time. But what I want here is to think about those really high level phases and what that means to your client and what you need your client to do or communicate with you on these points. So for example, when you're at the point where you need to go in and start running estimates, take pictures, do whatever, let them know you're going to be listen, if there's water damage everywhere, you got to open their drawers. Like, don't make them be surprised when somebody's digging through their teenage kids' stuff, because that's just how it, however you need to roll, they need to know it. But what this is here is I want you to let them know who needs to be involved, even if because this also helps you shore up your own process, right? So if most of the time they're going to be communicating with their claims coordinator or whatever fancy title you want to give someone, the better the title, honestly, the better I think that, their communication will be. And then what do you need? Why do you need it? And what happens next? Again, if you've used ClaimWizard, this looks very much like an action item, because that's how Lynette thinks, and that's how business moves for me, is step-by-step goals, succeeded, goals failed, what are the next steps? So for example, when we're settling a claim, you're in that actual, yes on this much, no on that, we're still going back, whatever. What's happening? What do you need? Well, you may not really need anything from your client, but they need to understand this is what you're doing on the back end. So if you call the office, Mr. Client, and I say, oh, we're in the process of settling or negotiating the claim with the client, this is what they know is happening. What's the goal here? Well, we want to get it settled so we can start collecting money, obviously, that sort of thing. So explain to them these types of things so they understand when air quote, go away for a couple of weeks because you're negotiating, you're running estimates, you're haggling, you're doing whatever, that you're not just doing nothing, that you're doing all of this work behind the scenes, and set expectations, especially where they are needed and where they are not needed, that sort of thing. Okay. I kind of touched upon this before. Why is this important? I want you to get your clients really involved and emotionally and physically invested in this process before they can cancel their contract. That's really what it comes down to. It really seems like a opportunistic business goal, but it is what it is. Next, I want you to schedule that follow-up phone call within 48 hours. And I feel it's best done from the person who is going to be their point of contact. So if going forward, they no longer deal with the salesperson, but they're dealing with an admin in the office, the admin needs to make that phone call. And what they're going to talk about is they're going to go over the welcome letter. Okay, Mr. Smith, did you see here where we require these documents from you? Do you understand what documents we're talking about? Are you going to have any problems getting those to us? What do you think your time frame is? That sort of thing. And then verify that they understand the paperwork that they need to sign and send it back to you. Because the worst thing in the world is to have a client come to you with a very simple letter of representation and saying, I got to show it to my attorney. Like, are you kidding me? No, let's move through this and explain it and kind of go through it. So you want to be able to verbally talk to them on the phone and see about getting all of their questions answered without generating more questions. But a phone call, I truly believe, is the best way to do it. Emails can be ignored. Phone calls, a little harder. All right. So then I want to talk about setting the stage for celebrating milestones in that client onboarding, process, that successful process. So onboarding a claim, that's pretty immediate, right? That's all the front loading of the documents. That could be done within a handful of days for sure. And then usually that middle part of the claim itself is the big part. It's the running the estimates, doing the actual adjusting, that kind of thing. And then the tail end of the claim is collecting checks, processing fees, right? So there's kind of those three main parts to it. There's a lot of information up front that needs to be done and preloaded, and a lot of flurry and activity at the end when money is floating around. In the middle is the middle. But we can help celebrate these milestones with your clients and let them know that they've hit the milestone and that what's coming next. So what that could look like here is when you're done onboarding a new claim, whoever that customer care person, that customer service, claim handler, whoever it is, can call and say, okay, we've gotten all of your paperwork. Thank you so much for being so proactive about that. We really appreciate and love working with clients like you. Now we can move on to the next step, which means you're that much closer to getting your money to resolve your property. The next thing we're going to do is we need to schedule an onsite between our adjuster, and whomever. Like if you don't involve them in the rest of the process, who cares? Somebody's in their house, they're in their house. Fred is our adjuster and he's going to be calling you, or Nancy is our scheduler in the office. She's going to be calling you in the next couple of days and she's going to be looking for availability next week for 3 hours that you can be there to let someone in your home. Like that's what you need to do for the next step. You need to explain all that out. So when they get the phone call and go, oh, I thought you just wanted a quick meeting. I didn't know you need me to be at my house for 3 hours. Explain everything to them. But, big hurrah kind of thing, light a candle on a birthday cake for, hey, we got all of our documents in. And then, when the estimates are done, say, we found so much more damage than we originally thought, or whatever the process may be. We're really excited about this. We have everything we need to go forward to put a demand letter out, or however you want to dumb it down or dumb it up for your clients, so they understand, hey, we've now completed this part. We're going on to the next part. So I generally believe that. I didn't put next steps in for check process and fee payments because, I guess you can figure that out yourself. But I think this is really good. And depending on who does it, you may actually want to have your customer service person do it at the same time. You may want to have your adjuster call after the estimate's done because they may need to sign off with the estimate. Your client may need to sign off with the estimate, and your adjuster is obviously, or your estimator is obviously the best person to be able to answer those questions about why their painting from their fifth grader isn't worth $50,000. That sort of thing. So that might be, however you want to dive out the responsibility would probably be good for that. But hopefully you can see where a lot of these things that we talked about today are really setting the stage for a solid relationship with your client, but they really need to happen in the first day or two. And I still, to this day and age, see contracts and paperwork get signed and it gets dumped on a desk and it gets entered into a computer system of any sort 2 weeks later. The adjuster's been working on the file, but it's just sitting there. Maybe the adjuster sent out, the letter of rep, letter of notification if it wasn't already reported. And that's it. The client doesn't know anything. So as far as they're concerned, you're sitting on the money and not telling them anything. I truly believe that there should be a complete whirlwind worth of information and communication in that first 24, 48 hours. It can all be boilerplated. It can all be scripted. It can all be done as templates in ClaimWizard. The reminders can be set as action items, or if you're using a calendar, just kind of put ticklers in there. But I truly believe that, and what we've seen is that these relationships, when you start them out in a solid way, saying, this is what we need, this is what you can expect from us, this is what we need to expect from you in a timely way. If you can't produce these things in a timely manner, please understand that it does make our entire timeline slip. Not putting blame on the client, but if they're perpetually late with things and they come around and they try to get out of their contract, because it's just not cool. We want to put as much out there as possible with them. Okay, so hopefully everybody learned a little bit of something. You'll be getting these slides in a little while. Whenever the magic computer system processes this video, you can replay it anytime you want. We're going to do questions. We can stay longer. It's not a big deal. I do have the replay of the documentation up, so you can go get that. Today, I don't even know what today's date is. Today's webinar was what it was, but we have April, May, July. I don't know why I skipped June. I was going on vacation and now I'm not. But we have webinars scheduled out so that you can sign up for one, all, or none, whatever you're up to. If you have any topics that you'd like to see discussed, I'm always willing to throw in some extra webinars. The next one that we have coming up is for how public adjusting leaders can protect their time and empower their team. I need everyone to trust everyone so they could go forward and do their jobs with accountability and security and such. May we have closed file review, which is kind of exactly the opposite of what we've gone over today, right? It's the very end of the claim, how to make sure that your I's are dotted, your T's are crossed, so you stay within compliance and you get referrals. Then we have team email best practices. So not just amongst your team, but to your clients as well. July 1st, oh my gosh, that one filled up so quickly already. Stop doing low value work and organize your public adjusting business. Everybody's like, yes, I want to stop doing low value work. It's a lot of delegation and readjusting I find a lot of public adjusting companies do a lot of things that aren't really necessary to move a claim or their business forward. So we're going to be talking about that extensively. And then July, stop using your inbox as a claim management tool, because it is not, my dear friends, it is not. Apparently I have room in June for some, since I just canceled my vacation today because cruises are no longer. But if you have any questions on any ideas or suggestions, throw them in the chat. Otherwise, thank you all so much again for attending. Y'all make me very happy that you just looking for gleaming more insight on making your public adjusting business the very best that it can be.